meeting to order. First off, good morning, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Please silence your cell phones if you haven't already done so. We're here today to discuss, have public comment on the Sun and Lake proposed wastewater treatment plant. And with that, I will turn it over to our General Manager, Ray Bosser.
All right. Good morning, y'all. Good morning, Board, President. I appreciate y'all taking time out of your schedules. For this one, I'm going to walk around a little bit for this. This is going to be a very significant emotional event for our district. This is the beginning phases of it. There's been a lot of planning. As you see, you should have a packet in front of you that has the slideshow. There is a financial part of it towards the end of that, 3 slides that'll talk the money side of this initially. But we are in the, what I'd say is the 20% phase of this operation. Planning with our state, planning with our staff, getting guidance from the board, getting citizen feedback is going to be critical to move this thing forward. And the intent here is that this is a discussion that needs to be open, transparent, frank. We need to hear the comments so we can make the right informed decisions for our community, for this district, for the next 50 years. And that's going to be a critical point that when you see the data we have here, I need to explain. So I'm going to go through the slides. I may talk a little quick. Please just raise a hand if you have an immediate question so you don't lose your train of thought. I want this to be more of an open. We'll bring the mic to you to try to expedite the process. If you need to make a comment, I would ask, we're still going to hold you to the 3 minutes. We can't just keep going down the path of just chatter. So we're going to try to hold to that. But if you have a specific question, just understand the level we're at here. Don't be. I would offer to ask a very specific technical question, a very specific financial question, when we haven't received any hard numbers or data from our state, is way, cart before the horse start discussion. So we would just be spinning our wheels. But I think you're going to get a lot of information here that will paint a picture of the requirement, our concept, and the way ahead that's going to be the least amount of pain for everyone. Because it is going to be a financial hit on everyone. We're going to make it a palatable hit, not a slam, here's a $15,000 bill, pay your bill and let's move on. We are not going to do that, all right? So I will move forward here. A little bit the backstory on our wastewater plant and WWTP, Wastewater Treatment Plant. That's the acronym that we're using here. This has been an ongoing discussion. Managers before me, as well as staffs before me, as well as the state officials, and so on. Been bantered about because we are getting to be end of life of one of our plants. More to follow on that. Just in the past couple years, the state has received a massive amount of funding from the feds, specifically for wastewater and water treatment plants. A big bucket came in. They spent a lot of it. And it's dwindling as we wait, as everyone waits. A lot of communities took advantage of that money. This is the Build Back Better money, so somewhat COVID related. And a lot of communities are benefiting from that jump in early. We don't want to miss that boat to get our due for what we need to do our plant. Right now, there's about $200 million in that bucket in the state of Florida specifically. They're going to add another $200 million this year and so on. So I foresee there's money available working with the DEP, Department of Environmental Protection. And because in my discussions to date with them and our water folks, they are making that statement that the grants of over $40 million seem gone. Okay, I'm fine with that from a bureaucratic person. We have also elevated discussion with our state senators, our state representatives, so they know where Sun and Lake stands on this and where we need help. And I think if you know bureaucracy, at least at the federal level, and definitely at the state level, the more power you have behind your discussion, it'll be moved a little bit further. It won't be just us, Sun and Lake, asking. We'll have the power of some senators chiming in, giving us support documents and so on. So we've already started that discussion. A little bit backstory if you don't know our plant. We have 2 plants in Sun and Lake. We have Unit 4, which is up in the Unit 4 area off of 27. That is built for only 250 million gallons per day capacity. That's been built, it's going on 20 years now. And right now, it's not at max capacity. It's about hovering at 35% capacity. So it's in decent shape. We've invested money into it. We're continuing to invest money into it. And it's fully capable of doing what we need it to do. The more concerning is our Unit 23, which is south on 27, on the back side of our community, closer to Frontage Road. That was built for a 700 million gallons per day capacity. There's where our problem lies. That is the original plant for Sun and Lake. That was built when we built this place. And it is basically built at 100,000 gallons back then. And now, as you see, 50 years later, we've expanded it to 700,000 gallons. And it is basically busting at the seams. We are not able, based on its current location, to expand that capability beyond 700 million gallons per day. It's also the oldest plant, so come with the age of that plant, the infrastructure of that plant, the pipes, the plumbing, the pumps, they last about 10 to 15 years. The plant in general can last about 50 years with the concrete walls and all that type of stuff. But the challenges we're having with that plant, because it's an original plant, is the age of it and the space we have to do any expansion. To throw any money into it would be a defeating effort, and I'll discuss that. We've worked on this for many years from all staffs, general managers and everything, but there's a process in the state of Florida, like with many other states. The community puts together their plan. They request subject matter experts in the field to help refine that plan, and then they submit that plan to the Department of Environmental Protection. The department then reviews that plan, gives us feedback, and then gives us a sense, every quarter they vote, gives us a sense, are we willing as the state of Florida to support this endeavor, and to how much money would we be willing to give to support this endeavor in the form of a very low interest loan. It's not free money, it's a low interest loan. So that's the phase we're in now. In August, we pushed that plan forward after we've reviewed it, refined it, we gave it up to the state. It's come back to us asking for RFIs, requests for information. We're refining the product. We're getting our staff engineer to work on the products for us and answer the specifics, mainly when it comes to the financial side. We're getting that back to the state for the revolving fund. So we foresee that happening this month. No later than November. We'll get it back to them. I'm trying to get it before this quarter's board so they can tell us how much money they're willing to give Sun and Lake. That's the hinge pin right there. We have the two plants. Okay, we can get some more life out of the other one, Unit 4. We could probably get another 20 years out of it. 23, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because we're throwing roughly about $15,000, $20,000 a month to just not operate it, to fix it. The age of the plant, concrete ceiling, cleaning out the sediment ponds, all that type of stuff that a well-functioning plant takes care of on its own for the most part. We are having to throw a lot more energy into that plant because of the age and its location and its lack of ability to expand. So our concept right now in general is we want to keep Plant 4, and there's a graphic in there that will be able to paint the picture. Keep Plant 4 for all the parcels north of Sun and Lake Boulevard. We want to find another place for Plant 23 and then migrate all the people south of Sun and Lake to that. We'll get to the map. And then to a new plant. And then eventually, when needed, we have the option to migrate everything up north of Sun and Lake Boulevard on Plant 4, migrate it to the new wastewater plant, because it will be built for the right capacity. And then we could sell, rent, lease Plant 4 to whoever needs it, large commercial, Avon Park, hospital, the commercial district in general. Then they have their own dedicated plant that they can operate. So we have that ability once we divest ourselves from Plant 4. Plant 23, once we're done with it, we seal the deal, we demobilize it, and then we offer that parcel up for sale to either commercial interests or more residential interests based on where it's located. So there's some options there. Okay, let's talk about the lifespan, 40 to 50. We're spending about $15K a month just to repair it, not to operate it, just to repair it. Every new house that we put in Sun and Lake requires, by state standards, about 250 gallons per day of waste. And I say requires, pumps out that much waste a day. So that's the calculations our state folks are focused on to help us build the right type of structure. We have averaged, even during the COVID times, we have averaged about 200 new hookups. I won't say new houses, new hookups per day. Because this hookup could be just an unoccupied house for many years. Someone that's been living in a house and then transfers it to a rental property, and then there's a new hookup. It's the same amount of waste, but it's a new service. In many cases, it is new construction. As you see, if you've ever been out west or on Cortez and that type of stuff, there's a lot of new construction going on. So that's the challenge. That's a challenge to us as a community based on the capacity of our plants. Stormwater, where in many communities is a major infiltration to our wastewater plant, for us, based on the design of our swales, we don't have a lot of stormwater drains. We have, yes, we have manholes, but the manholes we've been sealing up so no water can intrude. We don't have a major problem with stormwater, rainwater, getting into our wastewater plant to water down, per se, the product. We don't. That's a good thing. That's a good problem to have. That challenges us because now we have to deal with waste, but we also need to continue to deal with stormwater. And we've all dealt with it with the last hurricane. We've got to make sure our swales are cleared out. We've got to make sure our streets have clearance, and all that water runs to retention ponds and then, gets rid of it that way. We don't interconnect the two. So that's a good problem to have. Unit 4 was built for 1,400 connections. We're averaging 500 right now, a little bit over 500. So we have a lot of capacity still left in Unit 4. Not an issue. Unit 23, built for 4,400 connections. We're getting close to that. And we're getting close to that based on the proximity of Unit 23 to our new builds, to our new structures, to our commercial district. That all utilize 23. Unit 4, still have life, 20 plus years. Unit 23, end of life. And that's a challenge. To quickly discuss the difference between our Unit 4, there's a map for you to show you where we're talking. So if you're north of Sun and Lake Boulevard, you're dealing with the yellow star in the top, Unit 4. That is a low pressure system plant. Simplistically, your house drains out to a septic tank. This is everybody, for the most part, north of Sun and Lake Boulevard. Your house drains out to a septic tank. There's an intermediate tank that the water waste, all your solids sit there and drain like a septic tank. The water waste goes into that part, and then from there, there's a pump that pumps it into Sun and Lake's mains. Sun and Lake now is pushing all the water waste, not a lot of solids, we get some, all your water waste to Unit 4. That's a vast difference between what we're doing in 23, where you're getting everything. So that's why we have more lifespan, we have little maintenance, and it's a lot easier to continue the lifespan of that plant because it's only getting a lot of water waste that comes in, we screen it, we grind it, we let it dry out, and it's done. That's everybody north of Sun and Lake Boulevard. If you're south of Sun and Lake Boulevard, for the most part, your house drains by gravity right to our mains. That's it. It all comes to our mains. Solids, paper towels, everything is draining right to a Sun and Lake main, and those mains, all those parcels, those mains are being pumped back to Unit 24 for the most part because, oh, by the way, that's on higher ground than the wastewater. So it's being pumped up north to Unit 23. That's the challenge we're having. Because of that type of pumping, because of that type of product that's going up to the wastewater plant, it has to have more capacity, more grinders, more screens, a lot more products than our Unit 4 plant. Hopefully that simplifies what's going where. So Unit 4, as you see on your map, in your bucket, and on the screen here, a lot smaller footprint per se on the structure because we don't need a lot of facility to deal with just waste water. It's simply we screen it, make sure nothing got through, make sure nothing got over your second tank and got into the main. The pumps we put in our facilities are all not really grinders. They just pump the water to Sun and Lake. But sometimes they get clogged, sometimes something gets in there, and we got to replace a pump and so on. But you're getting, 95% water. You're not getting a lot of stuff. So as you see, the grinder side of it, the screening side of it, it's a very small operation. What it really ends up being is once we do our part and we clean it to the best of our ability, we pump it out to all those fields out there, those reservoirs, and that's where the water sits. Water sits, sun comes, drains, sediment, boom, we're done. That's all. After some time, on a somewhat annual, or I'd say monthly to semi or quarterly basis, we're having to clean out the sediment on the bottom of those things and actually take that to landfills, because that'll build up over time, even with evaporation. So that's Unit 4, not a big problem. A lot of space, a lot of capacity, no major concerns. Unit 23 is the big problem. As you see to the north part of Unit 23, a lot of structure. We have screening that catches a lot of the stuff. We have grinders that grind up your waste. We have filtration systems that rotate, spins the water so all the sediments drop, water stays at the top. We add additives and that type of stuff. A lot of that stuff happens to that north part of the water treatment plant. Then what's left trickles down. We pump it out to those 2 main reservoirs, then does the same thing. It gets pumped out. It's water mostly. It evaporates over time. As you see, not a lot of growth there. I got houses right up on me, right there. There's Florida Avenue. I got 27 in Frontage Road on the other side. So we're basically pinned in right there. So we can't expand Unit 23. We can try to fix 23, but it's never going to get past 700 million gallons a day. That's the challenge we have. Okay, this visually is what I just said. There's your districts. There's how Sun and Lake's carved up. Everybody north of Sun and Lake, got it. We got new construction. We got existing areas. We got southern part, the expansion behind Tanglewood, the schools down there, and you see a lot of potential growth to the west that would be included in this planning factor. That only makes sense. We should not build something to the exact number of houses we have today, spend millions and millions of dollars, and then next year I'm coming to this board and to you all saying, oops, we probably need another 1,000 connections. We need another $10 million. That would be criminal. So that's not going to be what we'd come to y'all with. Okay, so part of the product that we got back from the state, they have their experts do the analysis of what we need, what we're required, what they recommend. They rank them. They tell us the cost, bare bones cost of what they are, and that's in your packet there. So in this scenario, they've given us 3 with a couple sub-options that if Sun and Lake went down this road, this would be the menu we would pick from. Then they rank it, and you'll see the ranking on the second part. This basically gives you a snapshot of what the cost is, what it will do. Everything from just fix Unit 4 and Unit 23, same capacity, just fix it and try to get a few more years out of her, both of them. And that's in the $30+ million range. Or all the way down to the last option down there is new plant, new facility, everybody migrates, it's a larger capacity, and we can go up to 2 million gallons per day. That builds us out for, if we went full bore on construction in Sun and Lake, we would need 2 million gallons. And what I mean by full bore, I got houses going all the way out to Balboa. That could be coming. That could be coming if we had the right infrastructure. Because it's already getting out to Cortez. And now it's trickling out. We have to build the right plant to accommodate that. So as you see, that's the range of the costs that the state has done their math on. And that's what the state will be looking at once we rank them. And once we as Sun and Lake say, we are good with option whatever, that's what goes before the state, and they say, we will fund that or a different number. That's the stage we're at now. We're going to add, we've added, those are numbers as of last year. And I say last year, this fiscal year cycle, or the last fiscal year cycle. Basically, how it's timed for not only getting the funding, but also doing the construction. We have about a 3 to 5 year window that we're going to have to make some hard decisions at Sun and Lake. So we're going to build in a factor of a combination of cost of living raises, cost of construction raises, and that number by the state is about 30%. So take all that last column, multiply it by 30%. That's the number that we would need when we say push a shovel in the ground. It's a big number. It's a big number for a new plant of whatever capacity. Every year we think about it, we kick the can, we say let the next board worry about it, we say, hey, I don't need to worry about it, let the next folks 10 years from now worry about it. It costs us $1.5 million. Every year we just wait. Every year we've waited, it's cost us that. That's just money out the door. So this is where this needs to be an informed discussion. We need to get feedback, but we need to start making some decisions. We can decide. Doing nothing is a decision. We can do that. Just understand the ramifications of that. Okay, the only difference mainly, if you look at those options to the left, down that side there, the what they do, what they replace, how many millions of gallons of water, everything towards the bottom from 2B, I believe it is, 2B onward, built into our plant, we would have the ability to use reclaimed water for things. Watering our yards, watering our calming areas, watering our golf areas. That's close to 800 million gallons a day that we spend on that. Not the golf course, everything. Sun Lake Boulevard, all these areas around our community center, your yards that you're pumping water out of your own wells to do that. It's about 800 million gallons a day. Right now, the water we pump through our plants and we clean to non-potable status, can't drink it, non-potable status, it would take one or two small steps to get it to a, quote, potable status or a more refined status that we could just reclaim it and send it out to be used for those other ancillary things. To save, this is a perfect saving of the environment, to save the amount of water we're having to pump out. Right now, that water just sits, evaporates, and goes away. A missed opportunity, in my opinion. Can't do nothing with it. I can't reuse it in its current form. If I build a plant where I could reuse it, we're not going to drink from it. That's not going to happen. There is a multitude of uses to even exporting it to the other golf courses around here. We sell it. That's an option that we could do. Because it's 800 million gallons a day. Think if that was your water bill. We can pump that out, and it's clean, and then we can use it. So that's something we really need to put some thought into, what we pick an option. And do we want to build that capacity in? Or are we fine with the way it is? Pump it, clean it, let it evaporate, and let's move on to the next stuff. Okay, in your packet there, you see the pluses and minuses, pros and cons of what it is. The basic difference is the capacity. We go from current capacity, about 1 million gallons, to the potential capacity, 2 million. It's a major difference in cost. Because there's only, in the first option, you have to do it on site, or it's being estimated at on site. There's no expansion room. We don't have more acres to throw at it. So you're limited to the 1 million total. You're limited to the 1 million gallons per day capacity because we don't have more retention space. Retention ponds, those to percolation, that type of stuff. We don't have that. So that's why it's the cheapest, and that's why we're very restrictive. You start going to all the other options, we can fix the existing plants, but we would automatically have to pump something out towards the west to our new plant location for just your ponds because we don't have the space there. So we would do all the cleaning and everything for some of those courses of action currently in 23 and 4 where they sit, and then there would just be a big 12-inch force main that sends all that water out to ponds that are way out there. That's a way. It's an interesting way. It makes me have to maintain 2 sites now. That could be a challenge. The other options are just build it all new. Divest yourself of these, build it new. It's one-stop shop, and it helps.
On that same note,
Sir, yeah.
Swift Mud controls the amount of water that we can use on the southern part of Southern Lakes. Swift Mud, we just had our permit renewed, but only because we had reduced the amount of water that we were going to be using. So we have them in contention every time we turn around as far as how much water can we use. And if we continue to grow, I can see them coming back to us again saying, you need to lower your amount of water. That's where this reclaiming water really comes into play.
Check. Yes, that's a big factor. They don't control the amount of water we can produce reclaimed. They control what comes out of the ground. And they would keep that number, which is in the 1.5 million gallon range that we're allowed to every day. And that's for people. That's not our golf courses. Our golf courses have separate wells, separate system, separate caps. But to be able to say I got 800,000 gallons or more of reclaimed, they would say, oh, that's great. That's perfect. You can use it for what you want. This slide basically just shows this is one of these things. Not only do we, yes, sir.
The question I have is a little history type of thing. All right, thanks. Maybe a little history type of thing, and maybe Mike Gilbert can remember. I think there was some kind of deal trying to be struck with Avon Park to take, whether it be affluent water or reclaimed water or portable water, to clean it, or we have it cleaned and send it to Avon Park. So I don't know what kind of a deal, if you're familiar with it, or the possible history of it. Thanks.
We are interconnected with Avon Park's network across 27 for I'll have to confirm on the potable water or well water. I think, yeah.
Yes.
It's definitely on the wastewater that if we ever need to connect, we can do it. The challenge we have with that is that now we're on their network, their costs, their bills, and then we lose a lot of capability and control right there.
Apparently, the way the deal fell through, as I remember, it's quite a while ago, that we didn't produce enough water to warrant the connection or the agreement with Avon Park.
We're connected for emergency reasons only. We don't turn that tap on, and we haven't turned that tap on right now. But when we were building this structure, we did connect, and it's just 2 dead lines. So we have the ability, but it's a cost when we use their system. So now you're paying for our costs, and now they're going to have us a separate cost, so on your bills would be a separate line item to Avon Park. I don't think we want to do that. It's an option. I don't think we want to do that.
Plus, they control whether that interlock can be opened.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
So if they're having issues with the amount of water that they have in Avon Park, they come first.
Check.
And they won't let us turn it on.
Yep. What you see on the slide there is kind of the same discussion about every year we wait. It's a missed opportunity. It costs us money. Every year we've waited on the ability for us to move west to locate a new wastewater plant. Everything in green, it used to be all green. Everything was Sun and Lake owned. We controlled our destiny. Over the years, because of this discussion just going on and on and on, no fault to anyone, it's just, that's life. A lot of our individual parcels there got sold, however, they got sold. And people now own them. Some are in default, some are in foreclosure, some are just owned by individuals that one day want to build out here. So if we go down this road, Cortez is the orange line way out to the very edge of the slide. That's Cortez. If it ever connects into Schumacher, that's where it would go. What I'm highlighting there is Palermo. It's not built. There's no road out there yet. But right now, our designs are along Palermo, would be a boundary of our wastewater plant, and everything to the west of that, basically where it stops, where it says Unit 7, that would be the end of the water treatment plant. That would be the new footprint for our wastewater treatment plant. So there would be a process, once the board says move, that we as a district would reacquire all those parcels, get them back under our control. It would be a purchase outright. It would be a land swap. Hey, there's a lot up here we can give you. Give us this one. We'll have those discussions at that point in time, but we need to acquire the right footprint for any plant we do out there. All right, so that's a discussion that we're going to have moving forward if we go the route of a new plant to the west. That's what your new plant in concept will look like. Very little structure. If you barely see the red stuff, that's the plant itself. That's where all those tanks are, pump houses, grinders. Very small part right off of Granada Boulevard to the kind of the center of the area. To the west of that are all the ponds. settlement ponds, perk ponds, all that type of stuff to the west of that, going out closer to the wetland conservation area. To the east of that, right along Palermo Road, conceptually, this would be an opportunity to merge our utility department, our public works department, all our trucks, all our stuff in one location. So we would collapse the structure here, turn it over maybe just to the golf stuff, because it's right on the golf course, give them the proper ability to protect the equipment that we have. We have a lot of equipment that's out in the sun. And we're doing our damnedest to try to keep it not out in the sun, but that warehouse is jam-packed of all the mowers and everything. So to be able to split operations there, put the golf stuff there, right there, but move the public works to one-stop shop, that's the cost-saving measure right there. That's what's going to be portrayed along Palermo for the most part. So your utility shop, not the district office, that stays where we're at, utility department and your public works department would migrate out there and set up, and then that's where all the workers is. It also gives us the ability, if we build, when we build our road to Schumacher, that's more so the commercial or construction access to Sun and Lake. That would massively reduce the amount of trucks, construction-wise, our trucks for the wastewater plant, our trucks for road building, would all roll down Schumacher, come up Palermo. You would barely see them unless you're going to a project site. Right now, they're having to come all the way through the district, 'cause that's the only way to get here. So that's another byproduct of putting this in the right place. The concept, continue planning, continue public input. This will not be the only one. Trust me, folks. We're going to have to do a bunch of these, probably on a quarterly basis. We will change up the times. We'll have to do some in the evenings to get more people's access, so there's no complaints that, you did it at 9, I got to go to work. I got it. We'll schedule that. That's what me and the staff do. And we will have some more public input, because that not only feeds our decision, their decision, it feeds what we need to provide to the state, saying we have vetted this fully with our citizens to the best of our ability. The challenge right now for one of our neighboring communities, that wasn't done. They're in jeopardy that the state's going to yank their money because the citizens aren't behind it. We don't want to be in that scenario. We don't want to be, win the lotto by getting an $80 million loan for very peanuts on the dollar, and then because we have a lot of uproar, say, hey, you never told me what's going on, blah, blah, blah. The state just yanks it, and then we're sitting here with no plan. We don't want to go down that road. So we're going to do the most we can with information flow to you all to get some feedback. We're in the budget cycles now. 2024, we're going to have that hard discussion of how we're going to pay for this, our payment of it. Not the loan, our payment of it. We're going to confirm the funding with the state. Right now I'm putting a ballpark 55 as the number. Again, I got to get that back from the state. And then we're going to start getting the land under our control, possibly some basic clearing just to get the trees knocked down, and just start setting the conditions to expedite this build as we go forward. In 2025, we'll just continue, get more grants if possible, and so on. Build the Schumacher access, Palermo Road, I'll use that phrase. Get us to Schumacher, because that's going to be a construction access for this project. And then at the end in 2026, we're pushing dirt. We're starting to reroute some lines if need be. We're going to lay some new lines. Just for clarification, I kind of skipped over it. Right now, all the waste is going to these two plants, 4 and 23. We would have to either reroute some of our lift stations, or the intent right now is from 23, we'll run a new 12-inch line down to Schumacher, right down to Schumacher, and it'll connect to the new plant. So it saves us money that we're not having to rework everyone's lines or lift stations. Your lines don't change. The lift stations will continue to go to 23. It won't go into the plant anymore. It'll get to a pipe, and it'll be rerouted to the new plant for processing. And while we're doing that, for the current waste, we would be adding 12-inch lines, which is what you need to push this stuff, up and down Cortez and out Sun and Lake Boulevard, all the way to Balboa. And that's building the network to tie in eventually everyone that's coming here, in the near future and the future. So that's all going on before we even touch a plant. We're having to set the structure for success, set the foundation for success. And then we start building here, best case scenario is 2027. We start building a plant. It's probably a year to year and a half, 2-year project for totality. But we would knock that out, and then our loan starts getting paid back. You see a little snapshot over there. That's just initially our discussion with the state on if we went this route and you gave us X amount, 55 million, we've laid out the numbers right now, awaiting public and board feedback, that we could come up with over a 10-year period, a flat assessment for everyone on the network and not on the network. Every parcel in Sun and Lake, we could come up with a charge of X amount. We're using 2,100 right now, spread over 10 years. So roughly 200 bucks, 210 bucks a year. We could do that model. We could also do a model where we average it out based on your assessment amount. So we have assessments from $160 all the way up to $3,500 for like the hospital per se. And then we would just do a percentage, and that's the scale that everyone would pay over that same period of time. So there's different ways to skin the cat on this one. It's really going to be a discussion that once we financially know that real number, sitting with the board, we'll figure out what's the least impactful to our residents that we can budget for, plan for, and it's not sticker shock. So that number is just ballpark right now. It's pretty good on the side, but it's ballpark right now. Yes, sir.
I understand the preparation for the plants, the 12-inch lines. I got it. But the problem is that we were having discussion with Shoemaker. Should it be paved? How are we going to cut over to Cortez? Now the problem is that if you're going to pave the road and then tear it up again, you know how that works out, because if you've ever been up north, you see how the crummy jobs they do on roads. They put a new road in, and all of a sudden people have to have sewer access, and there's potholes and it lumps, and it's just terrible. So I'm just curious about the planning and the possibly implementation of a 12-inch pipe going up Shoemaker or some of these other roads that you mentioned, and how you're going to handle the prep with the construction now that you're thinking of, okay?
Yes, sir. Way early in the game on laying out the pipelines. We're just giving conceptually to tell the engineering firm, this is what we would like. You tell us doable or not doable. So in that scenario, the experts that produced this plan for us, for the district, their recommendation was run down frontage, shoot down Schumacher, and it made sense to them because Schumacher's only half paved. So now's the time to do it. The line that we would run on Cortez and Sun and Lake, or on the north or west side of that road, we're not tearing up road. We're going onto parcels that are either built, most likely non-built right now, there's no one out there, and we're able to, within the right-of-way of the district, lay that pipe so we're not tearing up roads. Trust me, we're going to do as much as we can planning-wise, where we're definitely not going to be building something fresh and then say, oh, by the way, cut it. We're definitely going to take all the measures to lay those new lines out appropriately. The challenge, if we don't, the Schumacher one is a necessity to get the waste to the new plant. The other lines, I'll use Cortez and Sun Lake Boulevard, even Granada, those are just prudent planning for future growth. If we don't do that now, when we're building the network, 2, 4, 5, 10 years from now, we'll be having the same discussion, whoever's in this seat here, of I need to tear up this road because I need to put this pipe in. You guys should have did it 10 years ago when you did the plant, but oh, by the way, we didn't. So it's really our prudent planning trying to get those lines. They're dead lines. They're sealed off at Cortez. They're sealed off at Balboa. There's nothing in the line until people start connecting, and then we make them live. So we're going to do that planning, yes, sir. That's us sitting with the engineer firm once we get to that bid process and lay out the work for that.
I've seen so many mistakes.
Gotcha. We will try not to repeat them. As a student of history, I learn from history. I don't do mistakes again. I try my best. Thank you, sir. Okay. Sir.
Two-part question. One, the assessment of let's say, A.
Yep.
Would start when?
We would have to start in 2024.
2024?
This next cycle, yes, sir.
Next year?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Please make sure that when you talk about this to the public, or the public gets information, that they know this is Plan A, that isn't the only proposal, that you've got a B, which is an assessment based on size.
Check.
Because invariably, someone's going to say, we're going to start paying at $2,100, and that's not true. So make it clear, because the only people that know that right now are the people in this room.
Great point. Yes, sir. And trust, yes, we got, that's why we're having these meetings. We will message it appropriately. It's my due diligence to give this board multiple courses of action and staff recommendations. I'm not going to lean them either way. I'm going to lay the course, lay the pluses and minuses, and then decisions will be made. You're exactly right. It's a perfect point. Right now we have two. We may have a few other courses of action of how we're going to pay for this thing as we sit down with the bankers, the state people, and they lay out the course, they help us lay out some courses of action. But you're spot on. We'll make sure that cleared up. Sir.
I'm an old retired civil environmental engineer, worked in wastewater all of my life, and water plants and landfills. And yeah, we've got a real problem here. I didn't think I was going to be working in any of this stuff anymore. My one last submittal review that I processed and did was a wastewater treatment plant at West Point. I work with the Corps of Engineers, and we just missed kind of the verge of technology on that particular plant, because what you guys are all talking about is all old technology you're putting in. And today, I've worked on a lot of different plants, and New York City DEP, I worked in almost every one of their water and wastewater treatment plants. They're switching on over to more viable methods. They now have, where you people are talking about, okay, we got to get funding, we got to pay this all back. Well, most of the rest of the world, I even worked in plants over in Spain, and they're already switching over to these processes. But what we're doing is we're switching over to a net zero plant. We actually can make plants now, and there's quite a few of them in existence in the world, that earn us money. They make and produce power for us, as long as we go to the bathroom. And that's the whole point here, to get rid of this stuff. We're working on a smaller footprint. I work with Aqua Aerobics. It's a manufacturer of bioreactors. They have bioreactors now that take certain types of bacteria, bugs, I like to call them bugs, and we can produce and tweak them to get the right types of gases that we need to produce energy out of them and to make them more efficient. This will fit on a smaller footprint. We can use less O&M costs. We're going to already see a greater rate of return. So our investment, okay, it's going to be a little bit more than that $43 million that you've got going on out. But we're going to be saving that $1 million a year on O&M costs. We're going to be starting to produce an income stream from that. Our citizens are going to benefit from it. These processes also produce a lot less odor. You don't have tipping fees with this. Tipping fees are where you go to the, you have to take your waste to the landfill after it's all done with it. So we're eliminating all of those things. We're also, on the water processes, we're also reprocessing all of the effluent into that and utilizing every drop of it. And it's really easy to do this stuff. And the technology's here in existence, and I just think that you guys need to look at what the rest of the world is doing in relation to this, so that we don't have this problem, we don't have this discussion 10 years from now or 20 years from now. We can put in something now that's going to take care of us in the future. We don't want our assessments increase. We don't want the bills going up. We want income coming in.
Yes, sir.
And I just think we need to go take a few steps back and take a look at it and say, oh, I'm trying to force this in. I got to get this into here. We got big problems here. I looked at what you're doing with Chris and everything before. It's like Chris, the old general manager. Wow. Yeah, we got some difficult situations to try to mount here, but they can be done, and they are being done in other communities, and we've got to we've got to go back to the drawing board and go back and reassess that. We want something that's going to make us money.
Thank you.
Totally valid, and for sure, the building of a new plant, there'd be no sense to not take full advantage of the technologies. And we're going to have to do that. The pushback that we sent back to the state, just for clarification, was make sure you're designing that chart where they gave us the numbers, make sure you're designing something that not only fixes the current, but addresses new technologies with reclamation and that type of stuff. So that's where those changes in numbers may come once they give us the firm number for the loan. And we are kind of hand-tied that the state will only bend so far when you're trying to build something with extremely new technology. They're very hesitant to loan on that. Now, that's a challenge, but if we can come to the table with our contribution, then we're more in the driver's seat of what we want to build for the benefit of our community to take full advantage of payback. So I got you, sir. And we're going to have those discussions with our state.
The power company will go in with you on a lot of this
Yes, sir.
stuff as well.
Yep,
I'm
yep.
highly opposed to that Schumacher or Cortez entrance.
I got you, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. In our planning assumptions, again, early in the game, you see them there, pretty cut and dry. It's a loan, low interest. We are building on our reserves that are growing about 5%, so on. I'm giving you some snapshots. Our water and wastewater accounts will grow over the period of time that we're doing this 10-year window for everyone to contribute. We are basing this on average operational increases of our wastewater plant, 5%, but that's a discussion we do every budget cycle. There may be some years where the board's like, no, we're flat, you're fine, work it. And as long as I can build in what the average is, then we're able for planning factors here. If we pay off this loan with earlier than 20 years, we can save up to $13 million of interest. That's a no-brainer in my book, but the only way we can do that is if our reserves are in a good position where we can do that. Unless you just like to give $13 more million to the great state of Florida. That's a way to do it, too. So we have some options there that we can inject how we want to control our destiny when it comes to the loan. And then you see some other factors in there. The only thing that we did catch, and you see it in the layout of the initial funding plan, is that if this thing goes on autopilot from contributions, assessments, whatever model we pick, and we are investing, we are operating our plants and so on every year for 20 years, there's a window of about 6 years that we are trying to stay out of the red. We don't want to be negative in our wastewater facility. So that's where that last comment is. Throughout the year of the 20 years we have this loan, we as a district, right now, initially, would have to throw about $1.5 million more money from our excess, our reserves, whatever, over 20 years to make sure we're in the green the entire time for this thing. That's a way early discussion to have, but I just want to be full transparency. When you work the numbers out, that was a challenge that we would have to invest a little bit more to make sure we stayed above the bubble. So there's your ways. Low interest loan. There's additional public bonding that we could go the route. There's additional loans that we are researching right now. To the point just made, there may be sustainable funding that's out there. There may be eco-friendly funding. There may be solar funding that we can say, hey, we're building a plant, put it on the grid, put it on the solar grid. Give us money for it. We'll do that. So we have a lot of opportunities this early in the game where we can reach out to those other agencies. Right now, the two numbers that we as a staff are trying to work to take it to the DEP financial experts is a special assessment on all parcels. That's a way. That averages it at 210, 250. And that's based on what they give us. If they only give us $35 million, well, that's the start of a problem. We'll have to see how that goes. But that number could drop. Or there's a percent increase across all the assessments for the same 10-year window. So if let's say the number is whatever, a guy paying only $160 a month for a vacant parcel, not on a road, no septic, no water, is paying $160 plus whatever percentage increase. And then if you're living at the golf course or if you're living at the hospital, you're paying that same thing. The challenge with that model, just to be upfront with y'all, when you work out the numbers where we need about $2 million a year to build up this reserve, would be a special assessment increase of almost 50% every year for 10 years. So that's a challenge. That's a challenge to everyone. If I'm paying $900 for my house and I live on the golf course, you would be paying $450 just for the wastewater plant for 10 years. So you'd be paying about $4,500 additional to your assessment for that same 10-year window. Okay? And that's just the law of averages when you do percentages. Where Mr. I live on nothing and $168 a month or a year on a parcel that's out in the boonies, he's paying an additional $80 a year. So over the same 10 years, $800. He's paying $800, I'm paying $450. Oh, by the way, we're sending the same amount of shit to the same plant. That's my problem with that model. I'll just be up front, pardon the French, all right? That's the challenge. Because the state looks at it by user, by amount, to the same plant. We're all the same. We're all equal. So the challenge I need to present the right data to the board is which way we want to take this, how we want to parse this out to everyone. Yes, everyone would pay. Even if you're not on the network now, we are building a plant that you have the opportunity to get on the network. So that's why we're building it. That's why everyone gets assessed. Builders, it's easier. A builder comes here and says, I want to build in Sun Lake. I hit him one time for an impact fee of $2,100 before they even touch ground. And we do that. They pay, they're done. They've contributed to the wastewater plant. So there's ways that we're going to address it, but everyone will be in this, has skin in this game, because everyone has access to this as we build our plan out moving forward. Not going to get too much in the weeds on this. It's pretty cut and dry. You can walk the dog on this. You start with the left, you roll to the right. The top is the amount we need to generate in our reserves, either from an impact fee, an assessment fee, however we're going to do it. It generates a pot of money in our reserve account. Right now, we're starting 1 October with about $600,000 in that account. And we plan for that to grow until we start pushing dirt. And then it's going to, and it should continue to grow, because not by the assessments, just by the amount of money that's injected in there by the loan and so on. So that'll grow. What needs to happen over the next 3-4 years there I'm showing you is there's about $2 million worth of work that we need to do, preparatory work. Acquiring the land, clearing, laying some pipe somewhere, that type stuff. So that's going to be $2 million that's going to come out of that reserve fund as well to do the projects. Then our loan starts, our loan rolls out, and it's just a numbers game from there. But it's really a hard numbers game until I know what the state's willing to give me. So I could what if this all day long. I don't want to waste a lot of energy, ladies and gentlemen. I want the state to tell me what my number is, and then I can give you the factual numbers rather than this is a way. This is a way. This is a way based on what we're asking them. So it rolls out that way. At the very end, you see how much we end up with, combination of operational money as well as reserve money, and then that rolls over to the next year. That'll be a board decision that we don't touch it. It's fenced off. It automatically goes to the same pots next year to help continue to fund this. It's not sent off to a pet project here. We're not going to build a road over here. No, it's voted on once the board says yes, and we move it forward. Then we die out of a loan right there in orange. The loan's done. We're paid. We are solvent. We are not in debt to the state of Florida. And now that's the lowest point we are in our wastewater fund, I'll call it. After that, we have perfect opportunity. Now, this is 20 years from now, 24 years from now. We have a perfect opportunity to have a good discussion with our citizens, whoever's in the board at that time, to say, is it time for a rollback of fees? Could we give a break here? Can we reduce something? Because as you see, as the numbers start going, we just stopped paying a $3.4 million a year loan. Once we free up $3.4 million for a loan, we have a lot of flexibility in what we can do with that extra money in our wastewater accounts. That's reinvesting in infrastructure. That's reducing of rates. We have a lot of decisions that can be made at that time. We need to get to that time, but we have a lot of decisions that can be made then. The second and third order, what I'm calling the potentials, and a great example was brought up here. Let's use the new technologies. We could consolidate some wastewater, and we talked about this one. That's an easy one. Saves a lot of money. There's been an ongoing issue we've had as a district with people, and God love them, with RVs and boats and all that fun toys that people like to collect over the years, parked in their yards, parked there. I got it. It makes total sense. But we have the land. We have the ability. So if we're building this great structure, why can't we build a space where we could offer that as an opportunity to our residents to move that stuff out there. All right? Just an idea, but it gets that stuff out of our driveways, off our streets, into an area that's well lit, patrolled by our security, and we'll charge for it. It ain't gonna be no free ride here, but it's gonna be cheaper than going to U-Haul, and we can offer it as an opportunity. Yes, sir. Don't go too far down the road on this one, Bill. I'm just telling you.
I'll try to be brief here. Years ago, when we built that maintenance area over there, which was a good plan, really, I thought they could rebuild those pole barns and do everything else, but I'm glad they did. They spent $1.4 million, whatever, and I think right now to do it probably cost you at least twice as much. Okay, you had area out there, and I always proposed, and fell on a lot of deaf ears, that they could have had an area for RVs and boats and charge a minimum amount with a lot of security. And it's a good idea, and I'm glad you brought it up again.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an idea. We'll vet it out and see if it makes total sense. But it helps us in the code enforcement side. There's a lot of people that do the right thing with those toys, and I appreciate them and thank them. There's a lot that don't. So we have the land, we have the ability. That's a perk to live in Sun Lake. That's the way I would look at it. So that's an idea. Go green, got it. New construction, we can go green on it. We can do solar. We can do a lot of things that save us money, but also could generate some funds for us as a district. Because we're on the boundary, you remember those maps? We're on the boundary of a wetland. We could get additional money because we could create a district conservation park on that backside. So it's just walking trails, but it's on the wetlands. The state has a lot of money when it comes to that. So if they give us money because we're tying a conservation park to our new wastewater treatment plant, that's free chicken. More money for me. All right, we'll take it all day long. All right, and then the southern entrance, we talked about that, and the sale of the old plants, either selling them, leasing them, divesting ourselves of them, would be a bonus in funds at that point in time when we don't need them anymore. All right, Avon Park might need an expansion by then, the hospital for sure, all those commercial businesses there. It makes total sense for them to have their own dedicated functioning plant. So there's a lot of second and third order potentials that we as a staff will keep vetting for the board for decision making. We continue to plan, we continue to get input, we acquire the funds, we start building our financial contribution, that number, whatever that number is, we start building that pot, that war chest for success. Because at the end of the day, 55 million, that's peanuts when it comes to the true cost of this over the 25-year window. It's more closer when you throw the interest in there and the other stuff in the $75 to $80 million range. It's a significant emotional event for the district. The only thing that happened more important than this was the forming of the district 50 years ago. That's my opinion. So we got to do the right thing. We got to think it through. We got to vet everything and make sure we have everyone on board with this. All hands on deck, and we're all rolling the same way. And that's the only way we're going to be successful here. And then we get it out for bid, so we start seeing what our numbers look like and who's able to do it. The Lake Placid project's taking 3 independent contractors to build their new plant. Because locally, and I say locally, Central Florida, there's not enough guys with the capacity to take on a project like this. So we need to get the word out to the right bidding networks who can do it for us so we have one belly button to push when we build this project. I don't need to talk to 3 separate contractors. And that gives us time to work that process as we go through here. They're out there. There are big names out there. We just got to draw them to our project, and we're starting to have those discussions with those big ones to see if there's an appetite for this to help us out. Questions other than the ones that you all hit up?
I also wanted to bring up these new plants that they're building all over the world right now. They take care of our solid waste, our green wastes, and they produce viable products for us. And there's a couple of them that I can name right now that provide all the electricity for the neighboring community, free.
Sure.
So that's a big cost savings to the community.
Yes, sir. Duke Power might have something to say about that, but we'll see how that goes. I'm with you. I agree, sir. I agree.
The power companies are supportive.
Yes, sir.
Because they give you the grant money to put the facility in.
Agree, sir. Yeah. But we got to have those discussions early so it's not a surprise to them.
We got
So.
to get on it right now.
I'm with you, sir.
You can't put in old technology or be thinking about this.
Yes, sir.
Or be thinking about getting, we need to utilize the safety revolving fund
We're on the same wavelength. I got you, sir. Yep. Anyone else? Board.
Many to come.
You got a lot, yes, sir.
A lot.
So you saw the next steps. We're going to keep planning, moving forward. We'll probably have a small discussion on wastewater at the board meetings. I'll leave that up to the president if we wanted to talk about it every month. But more than likely, after the new year, after the DEP folks meet, we'll have another public comment session, and I'll give you the latest and greatest of where we stand on the financing side of this, because that drives a lot of the dominoes as it goes forward. Once they tell us a number, then we can have some hard decisions made, or make some hard decisions of how we're going to fund our contribution to that number. And if I didn't emphasize it enough, the money we get from the state in a loan is a significant part of what we need, but it cannot stand alone. We as a district, however we come up with our part of that contribution, is going to need to put together somewhere between $15 to $20 million of our money over the same amount of 20 years to do this project successfully. Otherwise, every year, whoever's in those seats will be asking for 10, 15, 20% rate increases, and none of us want that. I would be woefully neglecting my responsibilities as a GM to let you walk into that minefield. And that won't happen. That's why we're having this discussion now, to get it all on the table, to figure it out. Happy to get any feedback, happy to talk more, sir, whoever, come by the office, chat, send me an email, and we can just keep refining this product as it moves forward.
Mr. GM, I appreciate your work and the endeavor to explain the whole situation, but a new idea just cropped up. I don't know this gentleman at all, and whether I've seen him here or not, I can't remember. And I've been in a lot of meetings here. But I tell you what, he presented his biowater reactors and making money for us. That's what I like. And it's a new process, new idea. It's like, you know, going from windmills to something else, to something that's really viable with nuclear power. You know, it's something that people don't really think about, and I think maybe in the next meeting that he can present his side of the situation, because we have to have options here, sure, and we want to do the best for our community. Thank you.
Any last alibis from anyone? Sir, it's yours.
Well, let me thank you all for coming. What I would like for you to do is talk to your neighbors, tell them what you've heard, ask them to please come to the next meeting, which I think is a real good idea that we'll have probably right after the first year, when we have more solid numbers that we can start talking about. But it's important for everybody in this community to understand what it is that this path we're going down. It's a path that has to be taken. It cannot be kicked down the road anymore. So get the word out to everyone that you can to please get involved with us, and so that everybody knows what's going on. With that, do we have any follow-up items or action items? Any discussion to and from the board? Again, I appreciate y'all coming. Y'all.
From Illinois.
And I'm from North. So with this, meeting's adjourned. Yeah, the sooner it's sooner in the bank, sooner the better.